Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Batman the Dark Knight Returns. The game is sent to me by Cryptozoic Entertainment and is designed by Daryl Andrews and Morgan Dontonville. Batman the Dark Knight Returns, the game is a solo board game experience in which you don the cape and cowl and journey through Frank Miller's iconic comic book series. Instead of traditional leveling up, this is a game of attrition. As Batman, you must come out of retirement and do everything you can to beat back a relentless tide of ruthless mutants, cops, and press looking to bring you down. Get ready to face villains like Two-Face, the Joker, and the leader of the mutant gang, as well as your powerful former ally, Superman. The reason why I'm recording here as opposed to my office is I just finished a playthrough of this and I don't want to set it up again, so I'm just doing the review now. Let me show you how to play. So, this is a solo game. There are 4 books you can play through. I'm only going to show you stuff from the first book to avoid spoilers, and you are just trying to achieve the goal. So in book 1, it's called The Search for Two-Face, and so you are trying to, obviously, search for Two-Face and defeat him. There are 4 ways you can lose. Up here you can see you have 3 different tracks: Grit, Health, and Sanity. If any of those hit 0, you lose. There's also a Doomsday Clock up here. If that hits 12, you lose. If a 12th Riot can be placed on the map, I'll get into those later, or if you don't defeat the boss by the end of round 4. As you can see, there's a turn track here, 4 rounds of 4 turns. At the start of each round, you draw 12 action cards. This will be the round deck. What you're going to do with this is you are going to flip the top 3 cards, and you are going to choose 2 of them to keep and 1 of them to put in the event deck. So you can see a card like this says, it's a detective card, has the effect immediately move to an adjacent location. As an event, it destroys a drawn path. So let's say I decide to keep these 2 and put this. This would go into my event deck, like that. The other 2 will go into my hand. You repeat this process and go through the entire deck. So I'm just gonna do it randomly, but now these fight cards, these will actually go into your fight deck. So if I, let's say, put this one in the event pile, these would go into my fight deck. And then let's say I put this as an event, and this one would go here. The detective card would go into my hand. Then you shuffle up the event deck and your fight deck. Then you gotta decide your adversary numbers. So looking here, for this book it's 7. You get to decide how many enemies spawn in each turn. So as long as they all add up to 7. So I could do like 1, 2, 2, 2, like that. Then you do 4 Batman turns. Let's go over how a Batman turn works. So first, you draw an event card. This one says, destroy a drawn path. Well, there is no drawn path yet, so nothing happens. Then you can move Batman. So how Batman's movement works is, here's the Batman figure here. Actually, you should be it. Gordon's office, Jim Gordon. I think I moved that on accident. Oh, fuck, these are all messed up. God damn it. Then you move Batman. You may move through any number of locations while you travel, but you must end your move whenever you enter a new district or Wayne Manor. So you can see there are different colored districts. You can move through as many spots as you want as long as you don't go through 2 districts. You can also, if you want, just end in a different space on your current location or end anywhere on your route. Now, in this book, Batman has a thing. Whenever you move through a location with 2 or more adversaries or a riot, you take a damage. But let's say Batman decides to go here. Okay, so he'll land there, and that is his turn. The rules for where you land on the space: if there are adversaries at the location, you have to place yours on top of one of them. So since there is a bad guy here, he goes there. If it were empty, I could choose one of the 3 spots to land on. After I'm done moving Batman, then I can activate my ally. So in this case, it's Jim Gordon. How Jim Gordon works in this book is he can move through up to 3 paths, and if he ends his move on a press token, you remove it. That's really helpful because in this scenario, Batman can't fight the press because they are, after all, innocent citizens of Gotham City. So Gordon could go here, get rid of a press. Gordon also has an ability where if he's with Batman in a location with a riot, you can lose 1 grit to immediately defeat the riot, and then he moves back to headquarters. After you've moved your ally, then you either fight or sneak. So, in this case, Batman has to fight because he is on a mutant token. But if he weren't, let's say he was on a tile that had a press token on it only. Let's pretend that this one down here only had this. He can't fight the press, so he would have to choose one of these other 2 spaces to land on. Actually, you could even do it if this was on here as well. You don't always have to fight. There are exceptions, and some event cards prohibit you from sneaking. But if you decide to, you don't want to fight somebody, you can land on an empty space. However, if all 3 were occupied, then you would have to fight. Let's go back over here. Now, in book 1, we are trying to find clues to find Two-Face. So these ones that are marked with a clue token are guards. So if Batman decided to fight this guy, we would first see how many mutants we're fighting. In this case, there's 1 on the tile, and there are 2 adjacent. So you're going to take 3 of these mutant dice. At the start of each fight, you draw a fight card to add to your hand. And then you take 3 of your Batman dice. You roll your 3 Batman dice. Then you roll all your enemy dice. If you rolled any re-rolls or flips, you would do stuff. So for example, if it was a re-roll, none of these have it, but if it did say re-roll, you would get to re-roll one of your batarangs. Flip lets you flip a batarang to its opposite face. Then you resolve blocks. So in this case, there are no blocks, but if there had been, let's say I did roll a block. Where the hell are the blocks? Oh, are these all different? I did not know that. Well, let's pretend we roll the block. When you roll a block, you can change one of your enemy's dice to a miss for each block. If your enemy rolls a block, they do the same to you. And they will block POWs first instead of rams. You'll see why in a second. Then you resolve all POWs and rams simultaneously. Each POW you roll does 1 damage to the enemy. Each ram you roll, you deal 1 damage, but then you take 1 damage of your choice. The enemy here rolled 1 POW, so that's gonna be 1 damage to Batman. This is a miss in this scenario, and that's also a miss. So in this case, I would do 1 damage, take out 1 of the dice, I take 2 damage, and you can choose which damage to take. So let's say I decide to take 1 grit, 1 health, like that. Now, any dice you rolled that was a POW gets placed on cooldown over here. So those cannot be used anymore. Then, if I defeated all the enemy dice, I would go to cleanup, but since there are enemy dice left, I can either continue to fight or decide to end the fight. So I would just take the dice out, keep going until I just defeat them or quit. Now, the dice you place on your cooldown card, you don't get back until the fight is completely finished. Let's say I defeated all 3. Then in that case, I would defeat this and 2 others and clear them. And since it's a clue, I reveal it. Oh, it's a dead end, so no luck. Because I'm trying to find 4 coin clues to find Two-Face. And then, that's how a fight works. After a fight or sneak action, whatever space Batman is on, you get to do that thing. In this case, it's raise your grit. So, his grit would go up. You can see that there's different ones for anything with this cancel mark, means you get to remove 1 of that enemy type from the board. And then there's 1 assembly for health, for raising grit, raising sanity. There's also 1 for restoring the Doomsday Clock back 1 space. After you've used your action space, then you add new adversaries. So these tokens are randomly set at the start of the game. You would look, oh, I'm gonna add 1 mutant to the Midtown East region. So take 1 of these, I can decide where to put it. I'll put it there. Then you advance the turn tracker down, and then you do another turn. Again, starting with an event card, moving, activating allies, fighting, and so on. Now, once you get to the end of a round, meaning you've done 4 turns of this, then you check to see if there are any riots. So if a location had 3 of them filled, you place a riot token on it. These are bad because if you ever have 12 of them on the board, you lose. Well, actually, there aren't even 12 of them, so once you run out of them, essentially. And these also help out adjacent spaces. So to defeat this riot, I would need to fight off 2 mutants and 2 cops. Once you've checked for riots, then you can draw a path. So I can connect any 2 locations on the map as long as I follow the rules. You can't cross over other drawn paths, any printed paths like this, bridges, which are these gray paths, or locations. You also cannot pass through deep water, which is the darker water here. And you can't connect more than 2 locations at once. You also can't connect to Wayne Manor up there. I'll explain Wayne Manor later. So I could do something like, all right, I'm gonna connect these 2. Now that is a valid path that you can go across. I'm also realizing I left a drawn one from a previous game. Anyway, these can also be destroyed by certain effects. Then after you draw your path, you advance the Doomsday Clock by 1. These detective cards can be played at any time. They do stuff like leak information, remove 1 press from any location that is adjacent to another location with at least 1 press, or speed burst, do another move step after you move, police scan or replace any 1 cop with 1 press. So these are like item cards you can use. Wayne Manor is a special location up here. You can heal each of your tracks by 1, and you can also get a vehicle. So vehicles are powerful things that give you a once per book ability, like the Batcopter here. Once per book, immediately move to Wayne Manor, then place the Batcopter on any empty action space in the location you left. For the rest of this book, adversaries cannot be added or moved to that space. So you can use these for that. But the only way to get those is to go to Wayne Manor up here. The bridges connected to Wayne Manor can also be used to travel quicker to different spots. These missions can be played standalone, or you can carry over your progress to the next book. However, if you die, you have to start from the beginning. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you go around trying to complete the objectives. In this case, like I said, it's find 4 coin clues and then eventually find Two-Face and beat him up. I can show you what a boss looks like. In this case, Two-Face here has 5 HP, and he has some special dice he rolls and has special abilities like if he rolls the same non-miss result, you lose 1 sanity that's unblockable. And each one of his rolls deals 1 unblockable sanity damage. Normally it would cut back to me, but since I have this all here, let me just kind of give you my thoughts on this experience. I think it is okay. It's not bad. It's not enough for all this setup. The setup is kind of annoying. A lot of little fiddly tokens to place. I also gotta say, table space is insane for this thing. Like, it's a vertical board and you gotta have cards. The vehicles are supposed to be up there, but I just, for this recording, didn't have room for them. So you have to have not only a whole vertical board, but cards placed on all sides of it. That is a lot. That is kind of irritating as hell. I'm not crazy about how these look very similar to the space, like the same colored spaces underneath. I get it that, that's what they mean, but sometimes it's hard to tell at a glance, like, oh, is this a token or a spot? Don't love that either. I do like the drawing paths. I think that's kind of fun. There's not a whole lot of it, but it's decently interesting. I mean, this is essentially like a pandemic style solo game. And I guess with dice combat. I don't love dice combat. It's not super interesting to me to just roll dice and hope for the best. Yeah, you can mitigate it with fight cards and stuff, but it's not super interesting to me. The actual, mitigating riots and stuff, that's a little more up my alley. But I was kind of surprised at how dry this was. Oh, I forgot to mention, there are goals as well. So, during the game, these are optional goals, like this one, defeat 5 cops and you'll unlock batarangs. This one, if there are no press left in any region, you get a reward. So, I forgot those are things you can do too. It doesn't really change a whole lot, but it looks nice. Novelty dice are fun, although I don't really like rolling them. They're funny, but kind of irritating. I think it's well presented. It's decently fun, but I would not see myself being excited to set this up and play it. Solo games are a tricky beast because I feel like when you're playing with a group or at least with somebody else, you can kind of like chat through setup and it's part of the experience. Whereas setting up a game alone, it's got to be a really good game because it's kind of boring setting up a game like this. And there's just not enough interest or meat for me in this game where I'm compelled to set this up every time and play it. That's just my thoughts. I think if you only can play solo games, then, you know, it's not a bad thing to pick up. Or if you're a big fan of The Dark Knight Returns, I'm kind of all right on it. I'm not like a huge Batman fan, or at least the comics. So I'm not really the target audience. The minis are nice, but it's really just Pandemic with dice. It's okay.